About 2 years ago, I walked away from my job as CMO at an tech startup in order to launch a YouTube agency with my co-founder, Calum. Last year, we scaled to a very healthy 6 figures, and in today's video, I'm asking the question, if we were to start over, knowing what we know now, how would we do it, and what would we do differently? And to help me out, I've got this playbook. And in this playbook are 8 diagrams that walk you through from step 1 all the way through to step 8, how to launch a profitable YouTube agency. So we're going to go through this playbook 1 diagram at a time. I'm going to show you everything from how to figure out which customer type to target, to how to validate your business without burning money, to landing your first clients. And by the end of this video, you'll have a complete roadmap for how to launch your own YouTube agency. Because God knows, the world needs more YouTube agencies. So trying to find a quiet place in a city of 4 million people to film this video is tough. So I'm going to take you to my favorite park. I'm going to try and find a little shady spot down there. And we're going to go through framework number 1, which is all about how to figure out your customer type. So the first framework is this one, and this is the positioning quadrant. And this is designed to help you decide which kind of customer type to go for. So why is that important? Well, let's take a look. So as a YouTube agency, I figure you have 4 potential customer types. You have in the top left, corporate, in the top right, startup. In the bottom left, you have the creator, and in the bottom right, you have the freelancer. And if you look at this board and you just think about each customer type, you can probably quickly tell that they're going to have very different problems to one another and very different needs. So if you look at the creator, for example, they've probably got a whole production set up themselves, a fair bit of expertise in that area, and maybe they just need help in one section of their process. Maybe it's on strategy or on editing or channel management. But if you look at a startup, for example, there's a good chance they don't have any expertise in-house, and they're probably looking to outsource the entire channel management or ownership of the channel to an agency. Also, just the way of working together is probably going to be really different. Creators tend to be a bit more kind of agile and flexible, but also just change and adapt their strategy much more often at short notice. So it's hard to kind of develop this long-term partnership with them. With a startup, they're probably determining strategy once a year. And so you might be able to lock in your service for an entire year, which just makes your agency more stable. And that's why we went for startups, partly because of the network that we had before we launched the agency, also because the expertise we have in terms of embedding YouTube into the broader marketing mix, but primarily because we knew that this would be a good way of building a steady and predictable income or revenue flow, and therefore a stable business. And so here on this framework, I normally have a continuum here and a continuum here. On this one, it's systems. So basically, corporates and startups tend to work more systematically and can commit for a longer period of time. And then across the bottom here, I have ownership. So with startups and freelancers, you tend to have a lot of ownership from the beginning through research strategy all the way through production, post-production, editing, distribution, whereas creators and corporates tend to want to have more control over more steps of that process. So again, startups is pretty cool because you get to have lots of ownership, but still operate pretty systematically by embedding within their team. Now it's got so sunny, I'm going to have to go Casey Neistat on you and ask the big question, why have I drawn a circle with AI in it and a happy face? Well, firstly, because of the pain points that our customer has. So as I mentioned, our customer type is the startup, and their 2 biggest problems is that they don't have an in-house film team and they don't have the channel expertise to launch and scale a YouTube channel. So our business model basically needs to meet those needs, solve those problems or solve those pain points. And that means we need to go in and basically offer a full stack YouTube experience, all the way from research and strategy through to scripting, production, post-production, distribution, and analytics, and then feed that analytics process back into the research and strategy. And this means that we can just go in and basically launch the channel and have full ownership of the channel from day one, which means that we have a lot of influence over whether the channel is successful or not. And that's the first big predictor of whether the partnership is going to be successful for us, whether we have a lot of ownership. And the second big predictor is integration. So we have accountability or ownership, and I is integration. And this is integration in terms of data, but also in terms of communication. So integration in terms of data means that we have access to everything that we need, not just YouTube analytics, but also their Google Analytics, customer data, all those kinds of things that we can feed into our YouTube ideation. And then integration for communication means often just simply that we're on their Slack, that we can learn what's going on in the company very quickly, and we can communicate what's going well and not so well with the YouTube channel quickly back to them as well. And that's super important just emotionally, because you just develop a relationship with the in-house team much more naturally and much more quickly than if you're just firing over good old-fashioned email, for example. So that's framework number 2. Take ownership as much as possible so you have influence over the results, regardless whether you're focusing on creators or startups or freelancers or corporates, and integrate as much as possible as well in order to ensure the longevity of your partnership. So you got your business model. The next step is to validate it. And that's because you basically want to try and make sure that your business model and your idea and the way that you're serving your customer type is good, is right, has potential to make you money, basically. And this for me involves 2 steps. And this is the first step. And this is the multiplier step. And multipliers are essentially those people with a high degree of seniority and a high degree of connectedness. And this is typically, for example, investors or people who sit on boards of multiple companies, or people who work at private equity or VC funds, or people that simply have a background at a lot of different companies or have been serial founders, for example. Those kind of people that are connected or plugged into a lot of different companies. And why are these people so effective? They're effective for 2 reasons. The first one is they just have a lot of experience in different companies. So they can tell you whether your model, whether your company is going to have demand. They can tell you whether there's 5 companies in their portfolio, for example, that would already need to hire you. And secondly, when it comes to client acquisition a little bit later, which we'll talk about later as well, then these people are extremely effective. And the reason that they're effective is simple. They have a lot of influence and leverage over decision makers within companies. So what does this mean practically? It means mining your network for multipliers, inviting them for a coffee, talking through your business model and your service with them, and just gauging the level of demand among the companies that they work with and work for. And if you don't have these multipliers within your network, just remember you only need 1 or 2 people. So send a few cold messages to potential multipliers, try and jump on a call or have a coffee with them, and get that feedback as to whether your business model and your service has legs or not. And that brings me on to framework 4, which is step 2 in validation. So step 2 in the validation process is basically creating marketing assets. Now, I've done a lot of strategy work, repositioning about 20 odd companies. And the biggest mistake I think you can make in repositioning work is just not developing any assets, because that execution is what realizes the value of strategy. And without it, then no one can really see the value. It's really hard to communicate what the strategy is. So that's why you're creating your first marketing assets. And that includes the website, the lead magnet, and the proposal. So let's talk through exactly why those 3 things are important and what you should think about when you're developing them. And basically, you've got the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and bottom of the funnel. So the website is where people are going to obviously find out about your services. The lead magnet is where they're going to contact you in order to get, for example, a free strategy session, whatever it might be. And then there's the proposal, which basically you're jotting down exactly the service that you're going to offer for a specific client. This doesn't need to be a huge thing, just a 1-pager. And the effect of all these 3 things is to formalize the business in your client's eyes, because they're probably going to be investing a decent amount of money in you, even when you're getting started up. So you really want to look professional and credible. And these 3 things are basically what you need in order to do that. Now, this might sound obvious, but there are so many freelancers just within our network, for example, that might have aspirations of turning into an agency or a more kind of formalized business that haven't done this foundational work. And when you talk to them about their business, it still is super vague. So they haven't even got it fixed down in their minds. And if they haven't got it fixed down in their minds, there's no way that the client is going to understand what they offer and the value of it. So do this foundational work, because from one day to the next, you'll go from this slightly vague, nebulous idea to having something that's really resembling a business. And that is a very good feeling. Okay, let's see what the next one is. I've forgotten what the next one is. Why are you looking at my feet? I'm over here. So let's talk about acquisition and how you're going to acquire your first customers. And step 1 is going to be to go straight back to your multipliers. These are the people that helped you validate your business. And so now you go back to them with your marketing assets and you say, we're ready to start working with clients. And they can reach out to their, for example, portfolio companies, say, hey, I know this fantastic YouTube agency. They will help you scale your YouTube to become a formidable organic channel. And there's this wonderful relationship there where there's this kind of accountability loop, because if an investor talks to a CEO within one of their portfolio companies and recommends you, then the CEO is kind of obliged to contact you and at least inquire about your services. So it just makes it very likely that you're going to get a few warm leads from the off. And that's one of the reasons that I love multipliers. And like I alluded to at the beginning of the video, this was one of the reasons that we got off to a flying start with Humble&Brag, because we had a few of these multipliers within our network. And to be honest, they keep on providing a stream of clients because obviously they continue to work with new companies themselves as well. So if we do a good job for one company in the portfolio, there's a good chance that we're going to be recommended across the entire portfolio, which is obviously fantastic for the growth of the business. But you can't just rely on multipliers. You also need a bit of a strategy working in parallel to that. And for me, everything that was needed was basically on LinkedIn. And this was definitely without becoming any kind of huge LinkedIn influencer. So let me explain how we did this. So 3 things. The first one is a launch post. The second one is commenting. And the third one is connecting. And this is basically in order of priority as well. So launch posts, anything that's announcing a change of job or a new company or something, tends to get a lot of reach and a lot of positivity from the network. And very often you'll get the first job opportunities, the first gigs through this launch post. So you have to be super diligent and quite strategic about that launch post. Anyone that's in the comments saying, hey, this sounds super exciting, I'd love to work with you, basically make sure that you're following up with them within 24 hours and you start the conversation there. In our case, we got the first couple of jobs through the launch post. And again, those freelancers in our networks and the other agencies, I know some freelancers that have got up to 100 job offers purely through that first launch post. So make sure it's a good one. The second one is commenting, and this is something that you might not think of intuitively, but just watching out for posts where people are very obviously, very explicitly asking for help with video production, for example. It's just a great opportunity, if you're quick, to start a conversation. And we literally got 2 or 3 jobs within the first 3 or 4 months, purely by commenting on posts and saying, hey, we'd love to help you out. And the third one is connecting. So writing down that list of dream clients within your local area or your domain, and then just getting in contact with them, potentially with a few free resources or a bit of a dress down of their current channel and what you could do to improve it. And with these 4 things, so the multipliers and the 3 strategies on LinkedIn, then it's pretty likely that you're going to get off to a good start and have some warm leads from day 1. So that's the end of number 5. Let's move on to framework number 6. And this is all about delivering on your promise. So what I haven't talked about much is just the people that work at a company. So as I mentioned, I worked as a CMO and had a lot of experience across a lot of different channels and had a pretty good understanding of how to fit YouTube into a modern marketing mix. And Calum, he was leading YouTube teams and had this deep expertise both in YouTube as a channel and also in production. And so together we felt that we are this kind of perfect T-shape where I could manage that strategy and talk about that with our future clients on that level. And then Calum could come in and manage that production side of our service. But we didn't cover absolutely everything. So strategy research, yes, but not the editing. So we brought in a couple of editors that we'd worked with previously, and they were pretty much full-time on our first clients. And so that was kind of the delivery model. That was the team that we had in-house in order to deliver our service. But I didn't want to talk so much about the makeup of the team. I think what's more important than that is basically that you build in processes that you constantly improve the service that you offer to clients. And there are a lot of different ways, a lot of different models to do that. You have, for example, the double diamond. You have the lean startup idea of build, measure, and learn. But basically all of these things are these processes of acting and then reflecting. So creating something, doing something, making a video, and making sure that you then have the time to run a retro, whatever it might be, in order to identify what's not working so well and change it, and identify what is working, and then make sure that you continue doing that thing. And this is something that we did with the clients, basically with monthly retros, doing a keep, stop, and start kind of simple retro, but also internally. So we'd run regular retros between the 2 of us, between Calum and me, and also with our editors in order to identify basically how we could improve the whole process and improve the outcomes for our clients. And I reckon if you have that process of constant improvement, you know, the old kind of adage or cliche that you're improving by 1% every week or whatever, then pretty quickly you're going to have a service that is very hard to compete with for anyone that's starting from scratch. So yeah, the lesson to be learned from that, build in these processes and these systems of continuous improvement, and soon you'll be the best in the world. And that brings me on to business doodle number 7, framework number 7, which is building IP. And this is something that you actually do pretty naturally if you've done all the previous steps, which means building out your marketing assets, building out your systems, and building out your processes for continuous improvement, because that means that you then have a wealth of documentation for how you do things. And that documentation is typically pretty unique and hopefully easy to follow enough for other people like yourselves to follow along and replicate what you're doing. And that's obviously very valuable because it defines how you do things within your company and it ensures great service and great results. But it becomes even more valuable once you turn it inside out and you start offering it as a service or as a product to people outside the company, which is a little bit like what I'm doing in this video, right? So for me, this is the design for a successful modern marketing agency or potentially any kind of agency. And this is something we saw AJ and Smart, which is where Calum used to work at, a design agency, doing super successfully probably about a decade ago, where they would offer design services to their clients, and then they basically managed to productize those design services, turn them into educational programs, and offer them as educational products. And that meant that not only did they have the income from clients, but they also had income from selling their educational products, B2C, to kind of the mass market. And it formed this virtuous circle where they would have this fantastic marketing and brand awareness from their B2C product, and their B2B product would basically give their B2C product the credibility because they had these expertise as kind of the best in the world. And so we want to develop exactly that same kind of thing, where we have the B2C educational product and the B2B agency product or service. So for me, that's the life cycle of the modern agency, where you start with services that you offer to clients. Over time, you standardize those services and they become productized services that are then much easier to sell and much easier to manage. And by standardizing them, you build out your processes and your IP, and you can then develop that into educational products that you can sell B2C. And then this final step, which is a little bit of a new step because of the advent of AI and all the things that are possible through things like vibe coding, that's the development of simple digital products that not only, your students can use in your programs, but basically anyone that, for us, is working in the area of YouTube strategy and production. So here we are in Humble Studios, and I wanted to walk you through the 3 horizons. Now, the 3 horizons is an exercise that we do with our clients at the very beginning of the collaboration in order to make sure we know how YouTube and our work in general is going to fit in with their overall goals for the company or for the marketing department. So we don't only have this in the book of business doodles, we also have this in a nice mirror board that looks like this. Now, basically what you're doing is you're sitting with leadership or management or maybe your whole team, and you're asking yourselves these questions for the short term, so up to 6 months, for the midterm, up to about a year, and for the long term, up to about 3 years. Basically, what are our priorities for that period? And perhaps more revealing is the question, what does good look like in 6 months' time? What does good look like in 1 year's time? What does good look like in 3 years' time? Like, what would we be happy with and satisfied with if we had made that progress and if we had hit or achieved those goals? So you write that all down, make sure that it's all aligned. And when you've got all of that down, then you basically have some goals relatively well defined for these periods of time. And it just ensures that you have a common direction. So what does the marketing engine look like for an agency like ours? Well, first and foremost, we have, of course, everyone's favorite channel, YouTube. Then we have LinkedIn, we have the blog, and finally we have webinars. And all of these feed into a lead database. And this could be incentivized through free trainings, through strategy workshops, through simple digital products, or a newsletter, for example. But some way of collecting leads is obviously essential. These also can be sequenced though. So what should be the sequence as you build out your marketing engine? So the one I'd start with is YouTube. Why would I start with YouTube? Because If you start with YouTube, you develop a wealth of scripts that are in your tone of voice and almost inevitably contain data and anecdotes and stories and whatnot that are truly unique to you and your company. Once you have that, you can then develop unique blog posts with the help of AI that still maintain your tone of voice and still contain a lot of unique information. And with these two channels, then you're going to build up basically a constant flow of viewers and visitors to your website. And once you have that, you can then harness that through LinkedIn and also through webinars, which are essentially your activation channels. So these are the ones that you then use in order to trigger some kind of purchase or conversion action from all of the people coming through these channels. With these 4 channels, I think that's all you need in order to run the agency side of your business and also the program and product side of your business. And of course, all of this can be supercharged if you were to, for example, layer on paid marketing and ads. So what does this look like for us here at Humble&Brag? Well, we've made a start with the blog and also the YouTube channel, which you're obviously watching now. Numbers are still pretty small, but we're already getting our first clients through both channels. So here is the blog performance. You can see that our impressions went over 10,000 for the first time just yesterday. And ever since we started focusing on it around the beginning of February, we've had a really big increase in impressions, and the clicks are starting to go in the same direction. Obviously, the impressions are the leading indicator. Clicks are still relatively low, but now increasing pretty rapidly. When you look at YouTube, what I love about YouTube is basically this constant flow of traffic. So again, we're not getting that many views, but it's just a constant flow. And as long as we keep on making videos and improving what we're doing and trying to find the time to film consistently and all those kinds of things, then I'll be very confident this is going to continue going up, and this is going to continue going up as well. And that's basically the foundation of our marketing. Then we had LinkedIn and webinars on top for the purpose of activation. So that just about brings us to the end of the video. If we just go through a quick recap, we looked at positioning, how to choose your customer type. Then we looked at your business model and how to construct that in order to meet the needs of your customer. Then how to validate your business model with multipliers, first of all, and then by building out your first marketing assets. And after that, we moved on to how to acquire your first clients through those multipliers and through primarily LinkedIn, how to iterate and improve on your business model, how to build IP as you build out your business model, and then how to harness that IP in order to diversify your business through programs and products. And that's what we just finished with just now. If you want to find out more about our sales process and how we operate as an agency, check out this video, and I will see you next time. Ciao for now.